So is there a difference between learning and growing?
Yes.
Yes.
What's the difference between learning and growing? Who can tell me what the difference is between learning and growing? Yes, what's the difference?
Well, learning is the fertilizer in a bag, growing is putting it in the ground.
Okay, that's a good analogy. Does anybody else want to kind of expound on that? What's the difference between learning and growing?
When you're growing, you're putting into play what you've learned.
Yeah. Well, did you guys ever hear of this book written by a man? His name was Napoleon Hill. He said, "Think and grow." What did he say?
Grow.
Okay. He didn't just say think and be rich. He said think and
Grow.
Okay, so what's the growing include? Taking what?
Action.
Action. Okay. So do you guys remember the process of manifestation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so who can tell me, raise your hand up high if you know the process of manifestation. You don't have to look at your notes or anything. You know it, right? Raise your hand really high if you know the process. Okay, so who would like to tell me in the right sequence the process of manifestation? And you know you got it right. Who would like to do that? Okay, Kat, what is the process of manifestation before we throw in the...
Don't add the P.
No.
Okay.
The way that it's normally taught. The process of manifestation says what?
Your thoughts.
Our thoughts, say it together, our thoughts lead to our feelings, which lead to our, what's that word? Action, which leads to our results, right? Okay, results. Our thoughts lead to our feelings, lead to our actions, and lead to our results. Is this important for you to understand this stuff right here that we're talking about? Yeah, it's absolutely positively critical to your success, because what do we know more than anything? We know that our thoughts, right? Our thoughts come from our conditioning or our programming, right? Our thoughts come from who we were when we were growing up, and who was raising us, and who was teaching us, and the environment that we were surrounded by. Isn't that true or true?
Yes.
Right? And isn't that true in every area of our life? True or true?
Yes.
Right? Isn't it true that in some parts of the world their economies are one way, they handle money in one particular way, in different parts of the world they handle money a completely different way? Isn't that true?
Yes.
I traveled all around the world, I guarantee you that's true. In certain groups, they handle money a very different way than other parts of the world. Now, did they come out of the womb doing money that way?
No.
Or did they learn? What's the word?
Learn.
Yeah, did they learn how to do money that way?
They learned.
Right? They were taught, right?
Yeah.
Okay, say I was taught how to do money.
I was taught how to do money.
Yeah, and so was I. Not necessarily by the best teachers. True or true? Is that true? Okay, so what do we know? We know that our programming, what's the word?
Programming.
Yeah, our programming leads to our thoughts, which leads to our feelings, which leads to our actions, which lead to our results. And the challenge that we all have is that if you put your age in front of the number of years, that's how many years of programming you're working with. That's how deep those grooves are. That's how difficult it is to change. That's why it's so hard to change. Because if you're 35, you have basically 35 years of programming in a particular way, and that's just kind of like how you do it. True or true?
Sure.
Right? And now you're going to try and change your programming. Now, can you?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why we're here, and I only have 90 minutes a week to help you guys completely change your programming, because at the end of the day, more important than anything else you do all week long, the single most important thing you can do if you truly want to become financially free in your life. Raise your hand if you'd really like to become financially free in your life. Raise it high if this is something important to you. Then the most valuable thing you can do is work on your
Programming.
And how many hours of the week are you working on your programming?
All the time.
And how often do you need to be reminded about the things you need to be working on? And how often do you need to be in that energy so that you're really digging for gold? And that's what these 90 minutes are all about. You guys understand what I'm talking about? Okay, so you know there's an expression that says that 80% of all success is just
showing up.
Yeah, so I want you guys to reach around, pat both your neighbors on the back, and say congratulations.
Nice job.
So of course, we always have a couple of things. First of all, if you do have one of these cell phones, raise your hand if you do. Raise your hand if you don't. Okay, well, so please turn them off, absolutely. And as Jason says, there's nothing you can get in the next 90 minutes that's going to be more valuable than focusing all of your attention right here, right now. Does that sound fair enough? All right. And really, I truly believe that in my heart and my soul, that if you totally focus your attention on the principles and ideas that we're talking about every single week, you are going to change your blueprint. And again, on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of your success, you know, what I'd really like to do is just go around the room and you guys tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being most important, where would you rank working on and building your blueprint so it's set for high levels of success? So what I want everybody to do very, very quickly is we'll start right over here, and I want everybody to stand up, say their name, and say where they rank building a blueprint for success ranks in terms of importance in their life. So we'll start right over here.
Okay, I'm Faith Van Buster. A 10. I want to change the blueprint in my life. I want to become financially free.
All right, excellent, thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy Gardner, and where I rank, I want to also have a 10, and it's extremely important to change my financial blueprint.
Excellent, thank you.
My name is Ronna Thomas, and of course it's 10. I mean, that's why I'm here. I want to change the blueprint to all of my programming, my messed up programming.
Thank you.
Well, I'm working to get to a 10, but I still get that little voice.
Yes, but you keep showing up, and that's the key.
It's probably 9.
9?
I want to be a 10.
Okay.
But not quite there yet. I keep working on it. I keep showing up too.
Yes, you do. You're awesome.
My name is, good morning, Santa Piers, and I definitely would be a 10. And very, very aware of all my programming, bad programming, constantly aware of it.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Thank you.
Well, my name is Loa, and I'm heading for a 10.
Okay, all right.
My name's Tom, and I'm at a 10, and I'm going for an 11.
Okay, very good.
My name's Don Robinson, and I'm creeping up to that 10, and of course, the older you get, the harder it is. But I learned a long time ago, I've never really practiced it, that in 30 days, you practice to the best of your ability, it becomes a habit.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Don.
My name is Helen Roberts, and as much as I would like to be on the 10 level, I have one of those things just overbroke that makes a lot of noise in there, so I'm working on it.
Okay, very good. But I think it's pretty safe to say that all of us would aspire, if we had our ability, if we had our choice, all of us would love to have a blueprint that's set for high levels of success, right? Mm-hmm. Raise your hand if you would love to have a blueprint. Because your blueprint is like your foundation, it's like your roots. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Not true. So if you have really thick, deep roots that are set for high levels of success, then pretty much what kind of results are you going to have to get?
High level.
If you have apple roots from apple seeds, what kind of results are you going to get?
Apple.
And if you have orange roots and orange seeds, what kind of results are you going to get? Orange. Is that true just sometimes in nature, or is that true always in nature?
Always.
Always?
Always.
Yeah. Are you guys a part of nature?
You know?
Yes.
Are you?
Yes.
So then maybe it's true for you too. What do you think?
Yes.
Yeah. It's always about the roots. If you have roots that are set for very high levels of success, then the results are going to take care of themselves. That's why they say that once your blueprint is set for high levels of success, do you have to work hard to get those results? Once you're set for very high levels of success, or does it almost automatically begin to come to you? Because you're just automatically doing all the right things all day long. Is that true? True. Right? That's the thing that you know, and every week when we get together, you're going to see me write this on the board. Because most people don't get this. They just don't. And I don't care, you know, everybody's running to these networking events, and they're running to their classes to learn about how to use social media, and they're running to learn this, and they're running to learn that, and they're running to learn this, and they're running to learn that. And a year later, you know where they are financially?
Running.
They're in the same darn place, right? And they, you know, and I saw this when I was running Peak Potential, is along the way while they're running, they see this guru who says, if you learn this, you're gonna be rich. And they say, oh my God, I had no idea that this kind of a seminar existed where I could learn this stuff. And so they go to the seminar, and it's high energy, and it's really great stuff. And before they leave the seminar, they say, oh, and by the way, we have this next seminar coming up next month where you're going to learn all about this. And they say, oh, well, I can't do this part until I go and get that part. So I'm going to hold off so I can go to this seminar and learn that part. And while they're at that next seminar, a month or two later, there's 2 or 3 people saying, well, you got to learn this. And another guy says, and you also got to learn this. And another guy says, well, you got to learn this. And you say, well, I can't do that first thing until I do the second thing, and I can't do the second thing until I take these 3 seminars and learn how to do all these things. And they become what's known as a seminar junkie. Have you ever heard of anyone who is a seminar junkie? They've been to 1,000,000 seminars, they've never actually done anything, but man, have they ever been to a lot of seminars. I have seen this in my life over and over. It's a trap. It is a trap, because your mind says, oh, look at this really smart person here, and I had no idea. I really needed to become an expert in this thing. And his seminar, 3-day seminar for $1,997 is going to teach me everything I know. Then I'm going to make a lot of money. Except the only problem is that while they're there, they hear about 3 other seminars that they can now go to. And they're so busy going to seminars, do you think they actually have any time to really practice and learn and do the things that they're learning at these seminars? No. You think, you know, when Harv teaches you in 3 days how to become a millionaire, you think in 3 days he's going to completely erase your 45 or 50 years of programming in 3 days?
44 3/4.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah. In 3 days? I mean, you think I can change your blueprint in 90 minutes?
No.
No. Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
Yes.
You're giving us the tools. It's up to us to implement those tools. If we implement those tools on a regular basis, daily basis, hourly basis, you can change somebody's life in 90 minutes.
Yeah, you know, and thank you for saying that, Jason. I do agree. I think, you know, I congratulate all of you guys, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for showing up every week consistently. You know, it's early in the morning, you gotta fight traffic and all the other kind of good stuff. But for you to make this investment of your time, and for you to put your trust in me that the information that I can share with you can make a difference in your life. And you know, sometimes people say to me, why do you do all this stuff, Jeff? You don't even really, you know, not only does it, I don't make any money from doing this stuff, it actually costs me to rent the room and all the other things that go along with it and all the other inconveniences. But I'll tell you real quickly. When I ran Peak Potentials, how many of you guys know what Peak Potentials is? Have you ever heard of it? Peak Potentials is a company that was owned by, he just recently sold it, but it was a company, good morning, it was a company that at the time when it was developed and created by this man here by the name of T. Harv Eker. Raise your hand if you've heard of Harv. Raise your hand if you've ever actually heard his voice, maybe in a recording or something, but you've at least heard his voice. So Harv really, he is a high vibrating individual. He's very, very smart in the areas where he's really, really smart. You guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And where he's really, really smart is he understood, he kind of cracked the code on how to get rich quickly. Now, how many of you guys would like to crack that code? He cracked that code. And you know, there are lots of ways to do it. You could, you know, but he decided he was going to do it as an entrepreneur. That's how he decided he wanted to do it. And once he understood exactly the blueprint that he needed to build his business around, and he understood the business strategies, and he understood business strategies for high-speed success. How many of you guys think that that would be a good thing to know? Business strategies for high-speed success. but he also understood his own programming. And he said, until I change my programming, I'll start a business and fail. I'll start a business and fail. I'll start a business and fail. And you know what? He had a habit of doing what? Starting a business and then starting another one and fail. Because what was his blueprint set for? What was his programming set for? So, you know what? Until he changed his blueprint, you know what? He could have the best business strategies in the world, but you know eventually what ended up happening? Yeah, exactly. So he had to change his blueprint, right? He had to change his blueprint. And he said, I know the business strategies, but it's not enough to know the business strategies. If you don't have that blueprint that allows you to not only attract money and success into your life, but a blueprint that allows you to keep it and grow it, that's all part of the blueprint too, isn't it? He was so focused in on the attracting it part, his blueprint was never really focused in on the keeping it and growing it part. And who would think that there's completely different skill sets to keep it and grow it than there is to actually attract it? Did you know that? Did you know that it's one thing to know how to make a lot of money? It's a whole different thing to know how to keep it and know how to grow it? How many didn't realize that that's the case? Right? It's a fact. The thing is, most people never get to the point they have to worry about that stuff. But what happens is, yeah, that's the truth, right? Most people don't have to worry about it. They don't get that far. But there's a lot of people. How many of you have ever heard of somebody who had it made? He had it made. Raise your hand if you heard of somebody who had it made. In other words, they don't have it made anymore. Right? You ever heard of anybody who had it made and they don't have it anymore? Raise your hand if you ever heard of it.
Oh, yeah.
It happens all the time. You know that expression, the rich gets richer?
And the poor get poor.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I know people that were really rich in about 2006, and they're belly up broke now. Broke! Maybe you know some of those people. Right? Maybe you know some of them intimately, right? So the point is that, you know, we need to work on our blueprint consistently. Raise your hand if you realize how important this is to your success. And so what I wanted to say is that when I ran Harv's company, I went to a program called Life Directions. And raise your hand if you've ever been to Life Directions. And it was at a very interesting time in my life because I was running this company that was growing in leaps and bounds. Harv was a huge sensation, and everywhere he went, he was like he had the Midas touch. And he could just, if he was trying to persuade you that it would be a good idea to come to his 3-day event, if there were 100 people in the room, all 100 people were going to come to his 3-day event. I mean, he just, and if there were 1,000 people in the room, and he had a program to sell, he had, in every city, in every country, he'd have people literally standing up and running to the back of the room, whipping out their credit cards and their checkbooks. How many people have seen what I'm talking about? I'm not exaggerating, this is how it is. And that maybe in the course of a year, you might never be in an environment where people are literally getting up off their chairs and running to the back of the room as fast as they can to whip out their credit cards and get in so that they can get the smoking deal. How often do you see something like that? Do you think it takes a genius to do something like that? It takes a genius to do the things that Harv did. And I'm at Life Directions, and I've been in the whole Peak Potentials environment for, I don't know, 14 or 15 months at that point, and I knew my time up in Vancouver was running out because I lived here in Scottsdale, but I was working up in Vancouver. And Harv was paying for me to fly back and forth, but I was spending a lot of time in Vancouver building the company. There were 35 employees when I got there. There were 135 employees when I left. So that's adding a lot of, you know, we had to build out as we leased more space, and we had to have, you know, build our human resources, and basically we had to build the whole darn company. And at Life Directions, I knew that we were never going to have to open up a U.S. headquarters here in Scottsdale. We were never going to have to do that. So as long as I worked for Peak Potentials, I would have to either commute back and forth to Vancouver and spend 25 days out of each month up there and get to come back here for 4 or 5 days, or I was going to say goodbye to Peak Potentials and I was going to come back to Phoenix, Scottsdale. Raise your hand if you're from somewhere else originally. Raise your hand if you're not from here. Okay, raise your hand if you are from here. Wow, we got a lot of natives. That's amazing. Well, one of the things I've learned is, obviously I'm not from here. And I was drawn here. I love living in Phoenix, Arizona. I was drawn here in 1977. And of all the places in the world where I could live, I am so grateful to be living here. And in the 35 years that I've lived here, it has truly been, I say to people, I died and went to heaven. If there's such a thing as creating your own heaven on this earth, I've been able to accomplish that living right here in Scottsdale. Even this morning driving here, the sky is blue, the sun is shining, the mountains in the background, the cactus are everywhere. I love it. I love everything about living in Phoenix and Scottsdale. And I intend to live here until the day I die. So at Life Directions I said, well, if I'm going to be leaving Peak Potentials and I'm going to be coming back to Phoenix, there's over 3 million people in Phoenix. And I can help these people. I can help them because there's certain knowledge I have and certain experience I have that nobody else does. And so then Harv said to me, well, why don't you become a trainer with us? You can go all over the world. And I don't want to go all over the world. I love living in Phoenix. And so at Life Directions, it was became an obsession of mine that I wanted to really help people right here in Phoenix. It's kind of like the Phoenix Valley is where I plan to live until the day I die, and hopefully I'm going to live till over 100. So that's another 40 some odd years. And I'm always going to be in business. So why not make 1 million friends here in Phoenix, help all my friends here in Phoenix become financially free, and hopefully a lot of them will say, Jeff, that bank on yourself program you got there, I'd like to invest in it. Or, Jeff, that Caliber real estate investing company, I'd like to invest in it. Well, hard for anybody to invest if they don't have any money, right? and the one thing that I have seen that makes me kind of unique, not like a Harv Eker or any of those other people, is my business pretty much puts me face to face, one-on-one with people, whereas Harv is 1 on 1,000, most of the time I'm one-on-one. And do you see the difference? And when you do that over and over and over again, where it's a lot of one-on-ones, and you've been doing that for years and years and years, you really get to know people. Yeah, you really get to know people. And it's not like all of my clients are multimillionaires. I have multimillionaire clients. A lot of my clients are just average people just making a working wage and trying to figure it all out. That's all. That's who they are. And so when the recession hit, a lot of my clients who were just getting by, they weren't getting by anymore. It became a real challenge to survive. How many of you know people who are kind of like either in that situation or close to it, where it's just a challenge to survive from one month to the next? And so I realized that if I could do something to help all these people, I had a responsibility to do it. And that was right about the time when I finally persuaded Harv to start bringing Peak Potentials to Phoenix. And then right about that time, that's when the idea of my 2% Club idea came up. So that at least once a month, we could talk about stuff like this. Because where else can we talk about it? Where else do you talk about your blueprint on a regular basis so you realize how important it is to your success and you're concentrating on it? Where else? Nowhere else.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And so it's not just a question of making sure that you understand how important it is to create this blueprint, but even if you have the right blueprint, most people don't have the right business strategies. So you can have the best attitude in the world, but if you're driving a car at 500 miles an hour right off a cliff, guess where you're going to go? Yeah, you were going fast for it, right? You had the greatest attitude, but you didn't have the right strategy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the thing that I really appreciate about someone like Harv was Harv said, look, you got to have both. You got to have the blueprint, that mindset, the 17 wealth files that we talk about every single week, these have to become just who you are. So you automatically, this is the way you think. So you automatically, if you think differently, you're going to take different what?
Action.
And you're going to get different what?
Results.
Results, exactly. So we're perfect timing. Wow, I was hoping we'd get started at 8 o'clock, so this is working perfect. All right, so today we're talking about wealth file number 4. Raise your hands if you have a book. Okay, anybody not have a book that you can share with someone? Okay, very, very good. So wealth file number 4, I love this wealth file, and I would say that for 99.9% of everybody in this room, maybe there's 1 or 2 people that actually do think big. It's one thing to talk. It's one thing to talk about thinking big, and it's another thing to act big.
Yes,
All
I
right?
love this.
How many would agree with that? Everybody, oh yeah, I can think big, right? And besides, big is a relative thing, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Big, you know, big to Donald Trump is different than big to Jeff Fagan. How many would agree, right?
Yes.
And big to Jeff Fagan, it might be big compared to someone in this room. How would agree, right? Okay. So the idea is, when you're thinking big, the only way for you to truly think big is if you can really understand how it all works. And let me give you an example of what I mean by that. I had a friend, and I can't remember how old his daughter was. Maybe she was in kindergarten. She was learning how to count. And she could count up to 100. Right? So I said to her, well, what do you think happens after 100? And she said, 101. I said, wow, that's very good. I said, what do you think happens after 199? And she said, 200? I said, yeah. I said, and what do you think happens after 299? And she said, 300? I said, yeah. And what do you think happens after 399? She said, 400? I said, what do you think happens after 999? She said, I don't know. But I said, now instead of counting from 1 to 100, you can count from 1 to 999. Do you realize that? And she said, I can. I said, sure. What do you think comes after 555? She said, 556. So all of a sudden, her mind thought she could only count up to 100. In the space of 20 seconds, I taught her that she could count up to 999. And in a couple of minutes, I could teach her how to count up to 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. True or true? True. So right now, for most of you, your minds are thinking like you can count up to 100. That's fact. It is. And I'm telling you, you can at least count up to 999. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want you to blow the lid. I want you to completely blow the lid off of what you think big is. You don't realize how big you can become. And I love to use the analogy of network marketing, and Harv even brings it up here in this wealth file. But one of the things we're going to talk about is delivering value to large numbers of people. How many of you heard me use that expression before, delivering value to large numbers of people? And we're going to talk about the law of income in just a little bit. So maybe that's what we ought to do. Is why don't we just go through it, and then as it comes up, we'll talk about it. So rich people think big. What do they think?
Big.
Yeah, they think big, right? Blow the lid off of what you think big is, okay? What you think big is 100. And I'm going to tell you very quickly, you can think 10 times that amount very simply, once you understand it. Once you understand the word leverage. What's the word?
Leverage.
Yeah, once you understand the word leverage, you can begin to think much, much, much bigger, because right now you're just thinking about what you can do in your 24 hours a day. True or true?
True.
Right? Okay. So I've said this before in our training, and one of the things that I can't stress this word enough, and the word is this. What's the word?
Leverage.
Leverage.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If you want, how many of you want to become financially free in the next 3 years? Raise your hands high. How many of you are prepared to not only learn, but grow?
Yes.
And growing means taking action. Raise your hand if you're prepared to take action. The one area that I want for you to focus on all day long, every day, is this word right here.
Leverage.
Because how many hours are there in a day?
24.
24 hours in a day last time I checked, and I don't care how brilliant you are, I don't care how energetic you are, I don't care what. There's only so much you can personally do in 24 hours, true or true?
True.
Okay. There is not a wealthy person who creates wealth quickly. What's the key word?
Quickly.
Raise your hand if you want to do it quickly.
Yes.
Okay, I did it over like a 20-some odd year period. What if you want to just do it over a 3-year period? Raise your hand if you want to do it in 1, 2, or 3 years. If you're not using this word right here, if you don't embrace everything that the word leverage stands for, if you don't learn it, understand it, and use it in your life, you are going to have to work hard for the rest of your life if you want to be successful. If you do not use this word right here called leverage. Okay? And so, let's talk about network marketing, for example, right? So, isn't it true that if you could figure out a system that every time you did this system, you sold a product and you made a profit from it, that the only question now would be, how many times can you sell that product, right? Once you have a system, then you know you can sell it, right? So once you can make a profit from a product, the only question now is how many times can you repeat that process, true or true? Right? If you have a location and you can make a profit from that location, the only question now is how many other similar what? Locations can you create? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say that you know that if you're selling to 1,000 people, you're going to make more money than if you're selling to, let's say, 10 people, right?
Right.
But for a lot of people, they couldn't imagine, how in the world am I going to sell to 1,000 people, right?
Right.
Okay, but suppose you were in a network marketing company. Raise your hand if you're in a network marketing company.
How many?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, isn't it true that by serving 10 people, potentially you could be serving 1,000?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because you're leveraging other people. True or true? Right? And that's what you need to be doing. You need to be leveraging the internet. You need to be leveraging other people. You need to be leveraging money. You need to be leveraging technology. You need to be leveraging education. You need to be leveraging your resources, your connections. True or true? In how many areas of your life can you use this word?
All of them.
All of them. All of them. And you know what? You know, that's why I always preach the word collaboration. What's the word?
Collaboration.
Collaboration. Because you know what? You know what? If you can collaborate with other people so that you don't personally, physically have to do every part of the job. Hello? How many of you want freedom? Okay. Or how many want a business that you're so freaking completely tied to that you don't have any freedom because you can never take a vacation, because when you're not there working the business, there is no business. And you got customers that are asking you for stuff, so what do?
Yeah.
Now you're stuck, right? Isn't that the most small business owners? That's most small business owners. Because they never set up their systems so that they could have freedom. What's the word?
Freedom.
Freedom of choice. How many of you want freedom of choice? Right? You're going to get that freedom of choice when you have financial freedom. And then how many of you want financial freedom quickly? Raise your hand if you want it quickly. That's why you need this word right here. What's the word?
Leverage.
Boy, if you learn nothing today, nothing. You want to think big, and the way to grow from counting to 100 to counting to 999 is to use this word right here. Leverage. You guys get it?
Yeah.
Great. So what's he saying? He says rich people think big, poor people think small. Okay, so it's a truth. It is a gigantic truth. Rich people do think much bigger. Small people, their and you know how you can tell whether people are thinking big or people are thinking small? Just look at their results.
Yeah.
Look at their results. Look at their results. Yeah. If most people, raise your hand if you think most people's thinking is small. Raise your hand if you think for most people, they think small. So if most people's programming is to think small, what kind of results must they get?
Small.
Yes?
Can I talk about, just for a second, that no excuses summit? Oh my gosh. Talk about thinking big. This thing blew my mind. I looked it up yesterday and it's full of speakers for 3 days. All of them are making multi-millions of dollars of income a year, and they all did it in the last few years. And they all did it with internet marketing.
There you go.
And they're teaching, it's the biggest home-based business event around.
You know, they took the clock down. There used to be
I
a clock
know,
right
I noticed that.
What, where is that?
In Las Vegas, April 20th through 22nd, and it's really cheap considering what you get. It's like less than $500.
Cool.
So, anyways.
Just, it blew my mind because it's so, they made so much money. It's like, I'm in a network marketing thing. You know, I'm thinking that I'm making a lot of money, right? Or gonna make a lot of money. And I looked at what they're making and I'm like, it was like, talk about thinking big. It just blew my mind. It totally blew my mind. It was like inconceivable.
And just so people are aware, you know, I've kind of been totally engrossed the last week and a half or so in this book.
Yeah.
I'm always engrossed in some book. How many, raise your hand if you've ever heard of Michael Gerber and E-Myth. You know, I have this propensity to study people who have spent 20, 30 years at what they've done. Like Napoleon Hill, how many years did he spend learning in his field? 20, 30, 40 years. So I figure if this man has spent that much time focused in that area, he must have accumulated some wisdom along the way. Raise your hand if you think that's just an assumption I'm making, right? It may or may not be true, but having read all of his stuff for over 40 years, I feel as though I know the man intimately. You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, you know, for me, it's all about Michael Gerber in the 1980s, in 1981 in California, opened up a business called E-Myth, a business. And it was a prototype, and it was a franchise. And what he said was, the average small business person in America is not an entrepreneur. It's not the brave person risking his capital to go out there and make a difference in the world and create a great big huge business that's going to change the world. That's not typically the average small business person in America. The average small business person in America is somebody who, let's say, was a plumber, and they got tired of working for the boss, and they said, any idiot can run a company, I'm going to start my own plumbing company, right? Or they were an accountant, and they were sick and tired of answering to anybody, said, I'm going to start my own accounting practice. So that's called a technician, right? That's a technician. Most small business owners are technicians that had what's called an entrepreneurial seizure. And I said, how wonderful is it going to be when I have my own insurance company and I'm out on the golf course all day? You know, it's going to be great when I have my own business, and it's the all-American dream to own your own business, right? Right? Except for the fact that 98% of all people who start their own businesses fail, right? The odds are overwhelmingly against the typical small business entrepreneur. So what Michael Gerber did was he formed this company called E-Myth, where he would come into your small business and say, okay, so right now you're a slave to your business. You don't even really understand what a business is, what a business organization is, and what a franchise model is all about. And by 1981, how many of you guys had heard of Ray Kroc and McDonald's? And McDonald's at that point had become the model that was now sweeping across North America and the world. It's called a franchise model. And the model was that you built a prototype that could be worked by people of the lowest common denominator. In other words, you know, if you could get teenagers to do the job, great. If you set up the system so that you didn't need to have professional trained people, all you have to do is create the systems and then have the people run the systems. So the systems run the business and the people run the systems. You guys get that? Yeah. Right? And he went into 25,000 businesses. It didn't matter what industry they were in. It didn't matter anything at all about them. And he taught them how to systemize their business so that the business could run without them. Because once a business could run without them, how many similar businesses could he create?
Unlimited.
Yeah. And so he said, whether you actually ever want to sell your business or not, if you build the business the way I'm going to teach you here at eMyth, you're going to have a fantastic business. You're going to have a business that's making gobs of money, business that you don't have to physically be there in order to make that gobs of money. If you want to run it yourself, you can. If you want to hire other people, you can. If you want to sell it, you can, because you have that one most important word, and that word is choice. Now, how many of you guys would like to have choice? So if you set your business up from the beginning the right way, at the end, guess what you have?
Choice.
Raise your hand if you like choice. Yeah, you want to keep working your business and growing your business, you have choice. You want to sell your business, make gobs of money? Who doesn't want to buy a turnkey, ready-made business where they're going to buy from you and they don't even have to run it themselves? It just runs itself.
The ATM machine.
A little money machine, right?
Gee, a Money Machine Express.
The money, and that's what my Money Machine Express is all about, is for you to learn how to do that over a 1 or 2 or 3 year period in any business. In any business. Now, some businesses, if you're in a service-related business where you're trading your time for money, or you've got a job, or anything where you get paid by the hour or by job, then you have a fixed income, don't you?
Yes.
Right. And so if you have a ceiling on your income, you can't become financially free quickly. You can't. Not unless that ceiling is like $5 million a year. Then you can become. But otherwise, and what's wealth rule number 1? No limits on your no ceiling on your income. So that's why we say over and over again, if you are in a job, or if you are in some kind of a personal services type situation, the street smart strategy you want to employ is start a second business on the side. Does that make sense? And it better be selling what kind of, not a service, but rather a product. So you can think big and deliver lots of it, right? Right. Okay, so let's talk about this. He says here, we once had a trainer teaching in one of our seminars who went from a net worth of $250,000 to over $600 million in only 3 years. I heard this guy speak. I have a CD of his speaking in 1996 in one of our speedboats. His name is, I think it's Mike Chan, and he's from Taiwan. He went to HAR's trainings. He was the right person at the right place at the right time. He went back to Taiwan, and in 3 years he was making over $600 million. Can you imagine that? And he said, here's what he said. He said, when I asked the secret, he said, everything changed the moment I began to think big. Yeah. So, here's what Hart says. I refer you to the law of income, which states, you will be paid in direct proportion to the value you deliver according to the marketplace. All right, so that's the law of income. Okay. So there are 4 things that determine your value in the marketplace, right? Okay, and the biggest challenge for most small business owners is delivering a lot of quantity. What's the word? Quantity. So if you want to get paid, you need to deliver your value to people. Yes?
Yes.
But if you want to get rich, you need to deliver your value to a lot of people. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Is that true in some businesses or all businesses? It doesn't matter what business you're in, right? Right. So if you're a massage therapist, the only way you can deliver a lot of massages is to own a chain of massage therapies, massage places. True or true? True. Because you personally, how many can you do in a day?
Probably 6, 8.
Maybe 8.
Do you have a ceiling on your income?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, if you own a chain of 500 massage places all across the United States, do you have a ceiling on your income? No. No, because you created a system, right? You've created a system, a duplicatable process. But if you're the main cog in the wheel, eventually you will become the main cog. Now, raise your hand if you believe that's true. Yeah, that's the way it is. So, it's almost like you have to take your ego out of this. You almost have to take your ego out. You need to create a business structure that you personally, if everybody says, well, I only want to do business with Jeff, that's not the goal. It might serve your ego. It might make you feel good. But they might say, let's say Jeff created a business called the Money Machine Express, and say, I only want to work with the Money Machine Express. That's different, because I can have Money Machine Expresses all over the world, and it's the brand, it's the image, it's the value that you're delivering that's important. And if it has to be Jeff Fagan delivering it all the time, it's not going to work. So let me give you a perfect example. I ran this company for this man, Harv Ecker. Harv said, I'm going to build a personal training company. I'm going to build it from scratch. He did. He said, I'm going to build it big. And eventually, I'm going to take myself out of the picture. Now, other people can be up there on the stage doing all the training for me.
That was
Right?
his final goal.
And then he says, and then at that point, I got choice, don't I?
Yes.
If I want to sell the business, I can sell the business. If I want to sell the business and keep on, work a contract with them, or I can do my own thing and still make money from the business and help them get the thing, moving in the right direction. Best of all worlds. Now I don't have to deal with employees or payroll or any of that kind of stuff anymore. That's somebody else's problem. I get a nice residual from selling peak potentials, and I can pretty much do whatever I want. Does that sound like a good idea?
Yes.
Okay, so his goal about 10 years ago was to build a personal development company, build it globally, take himself out completely, and then if he wanted to sell it, he could, which he did. So did he execute on his plan?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Now, he did that in the personal development business, didn't he?
Yeah.
Could you do it in any business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could do it in the bagel business.
Yeah.
You could do it in the pizza business, the hot dog business, hamburger business, any kind of business. True.
True.
Harv did it in the personal fitness business back in the 1980s, didn't he? What did he do? He leased one little store, and he figured out a way to market the crap out of whatever he decided the product was going to be. And fortunately, the product was something he was very passionate about, which was personal gym equipment, home fitness equipment, because Harv was really into fitness. And this little teeny tiny store became his prototype. He spent 6 months in the store figuring out the colors, the designs, the logos, the marketing, every single aspect of that business. He basically slept there. What's the best way to greet people? Maybe you guys have heard me lately where I'm talking about it. Typically, tell me if you've ever experienced this. You walk into a retail store and the sales clerk walks up to you, and when they say, what? Can I
Help you.
raise your hand if that's ever happened to you? Can I help you? And then 99 times out of 100 you say,
No, I'm just looking.
no, I'm just looking, right? And they say, okay, no problems. And then they walk off, and now they can kind of put their brain on snooze control because they've done their job now and they don't have to do it. True or true? True, okay. So suppose, yes?
I get paid on commission. Hey, you gonna get away from me?
Okay, all right.
You
So,
walk your mind.
but suppose an outside consultant comes in. Okay, suppose an outside consultant comes in and pulls all the salespeople together and says, okay, here's what I want, guys. Starting with the next person that comes in, and for the next month, as soon as someone comes in, I want you to greet them and I want you to say, hi, have you been here before? All right? That's what I want. No more, can I help you? Hi, have you been here before? Now, when you ask that question, they're going to say one of two words.
Yes,
Yes
sir.
or no?
What are they going to say?
Yes, sir.
Okay, suppose they say no. You're going to say this. Well, it just so happens we have a brand new program for all of our new clients. Let me tell you about it. Now, suppose they say yes. What do you say then?
Just so happens we have a program for our return
We
clients.
have a brand new program we're just rolling out for all of our return customers. Let me tell you about it. You guys are laughing, right? You want to know something? 21% increase in sales by doing that. 21% increase in sales. Now, obviously, you have to be tracking how many customers you have coming in to be able to calculate. So you have to know what's called your key economic indicators, your key performance indicators for your company, so that you can actually know when you make a little. And by the way, how much did they cost to make those changes? How much training did it take to make those changes?
tiny bit.
You know, let me ask you something, Catherine. Would you do me a favor? Would you do me a favor? Thank you. Did you notice what I just did?
You touched her.
I asked her if she would do me a favor at the exact same second that I touched her on her forearm. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah.
Did you know how much more likely it is the person will actually do your favor if you just do that one little act? Suppose 50% people would do more favors for you if you just simply made it a point to touch them on their forearm or their hand before, as you were asking them for whatever the favor was. Now, is that cost a lot of money?
No.
Yes, go ahead, Jason.
Well, I did, may or may not be appropriate time for this, but I actually did a little research on, we talk about change. A lot of people are resistant to change.
Yes.
But the question is, what is the cost of not changing? And this is the little research that we did. IBM, they did not produce laptops.
Yep.
Dell took the laptop market. IBM did not want to be in the software business, so they got rid of this little thing called DOS. Microsoft ran with it. Sears didn't want to do discounts. Walmart took over. Barnes & Noble didn't want to adapt to the digital technology. Amazon took over. Blockbuster, Netflix, Blockbusters are going out of business everywhere. So when you think of change and you think, oh, the cost of change, think about the cost of not changing.
Yes.
And not thinking big.
Yes, precisely. And I'm seriously thinking after I finish doing a Social Boom with Jeffrey Gitomer, doing this book here, because one of the things he talks about is the word innovation. What's the word?
Innovation.
Innovation. So no company can survive. Your vision of your perfect business can't be static. Can't be something, because for it to survive in the future, is the world going to change in the future?
Yes.
Are people's interests going to change in the future?
Yes.
Are people's needs going to change in the
Yes.
future?
Yes.
And if you're not addressing those needs and being one step ahead of them, you know what?
You're behind.
So you need to innovate. The beautiful thing is, when you understand the way Michael Gerber thinks, is your whole business is built around, you already know exactly who your target market is. You know how they think. You know what makes them click. You know them so well that you can pretty well predict that if you do this, they're going to do that. Right? And not only can you service their current needs, but you can say, they're going to have these needs in the future. And if you can be thinking a little bit ahead, and you know what problems they're going to have, and you can constantly be solving them, are you ever going to have a problem finding customers and clients? No. And if you're not constantly looking for the next need or the next problem that you can solve for your customers, are you going to stay in business very long?
No.
No. So the word is innovate. What's the word?
Innovate.
Innovate. And the way you innovate is you do something like you bring your salespeople together and you say, okay, this week instead of greeting our people and saying this, we're going to test and we're going to have you say that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then we're going to compare what the results are. And if it works, guess what the new system's going to be? We're going to revise and update and innovate our system. And if I have 1,000 stores, guess how many stores I'm going to implement this new system in?
1,000 stores.
Now that I go from increasing my sales 20% in one store, 1,000 stores. You guys get it?
Yeah.
Because you're thinking big. You're thinking big, right? So, he says, another way of stating this is how many people do you actually serve or affect, right? That's what's so important. How many people do you serve or affect? Now, do you personally have to be serving them, or can it be your business that's serving them?
Business.
The problem is that small business in America simply doesn't work. Small business owners work their tails off, but small businesses do not work. And the idea is the business is supposed to work for you. You're not supposed to be a slave to your
business.
You guys get this?
I sure do.
Right? And how many people do you think set themselves up to eventually become slaves to their businesses?
Oh,
Thank
They
you.
get out of their own box.
Totally. Totally. They are so trapped in the job mentality that they look at the business as a place to go to work, right? An entrepreneur looks at the business as something to build. right? That's going to create a cash flow for them. They're building a machine, they're building systems so that that business can work without them physically having to be there, right? You guys get this? And again, there's two things you need to do in any business. There's tactics and there's strategies, right? What's the difference between a strategy and a tactic? Linda?
Strategy is basically the conceptual thinking about and creating the plan, and the tactic is the doing of the plan.
Thank you. So suppose one of my strategies is I'm going to use social media to get my word out to everybody. Is that a strategy?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Now the tactic is, well, I'm going to do this on Facebook, and I'm going to do this on Twitter, and now I have very specific things I need to do in order for the strategy of marketing myself on social media to actually work, right? Okay. So they're the tactics, that's the doing, and the strategy, that's the thinking. Okay. Now where do you think the big money is if you really want to become successful in a business? In the doing part or in the thinking part?
The thinking part.
The thinking part. So if you want to replace yourself in your business, which part of the business do you want to replace yourself first? In the doing part or the thinking part? The doing part. So, for example, Ray Kroc, do you think Ray Kroc, when he owned McDonald's, wanted to be flipping all the burgers? No. He wanted to set up a system, so what kind of people do you need to hire to be able to do flipping burgers at McDonald's? Tell me the kinds of people you need.
Enthusiastic.
How much education do they need? How much experience do they need?
Zero. I was
Nothing.
gonna say inexperienced people.
Inexperienced people. As long as they're coachable, right? Here's what you got to do. If you can do this, you can do the job. So, can you hire very inexpensive labor?
Yes.
Can he? I mean, is it much to train these people? No. They're just going to follow the system. What are they following? Yeah, they're following the system, exactly. So that's what you guys need to understand, is everything you're doing, you need to create a system for it. And nowadays, with these things like here, you've got to document your system. In addition to creating it, you've got to document it. And with these things right here, you say, okay, so this is how I call a prospect and set up an appointment. Hi, how are you? This is Jeff. I'm with Bank on Yourself. I saw you were interested in, yeah, absolutely. You know what? I'd be happy to meet with you for an hour. Why don't you check your calendar right now and let me know a day and a time when we could be able to get together. That's awesome, terrific. So that works for me as well. So I'm going to put you down for next Wednesday. I'll also send you an email as a follow-up to make sure that everything is confirmed. You have all my contact information, and I'm also going to attach a checklist that has all the benefits you get when you do this Bank on Yourself program. So are there any other questions before I see you next week? Great, I'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks, bye. Okay, that's how you do a setup call. Click. Okay, now you can put that up on Facebook. Now I'm going to hire a bunch of people to make phone calls for me. This is how you do it. Watch the video. Watch it 100 times if you want. If you have any questions, write them down. I'll set up a Q&A. Eventually, how much training do I need to do? None. Watch the frickin' video, right? Okay. Here's how I do my online deposits. Okay, I'm gonna blank out your. Well, you don't want people to see your account numbers and everything. Here's how I do this. Here's how I do that. Can you document everything you're doing?
Yes.
Nowadays it costs nothing, right? You can, and then so let's say you don't want to do this job anymore. You're gonna find someone else to do it. Right. So now you have a video. This is how you do the job. Watch the video 15, 20 times. Go ahead and do it. Report back to me. While that person is training to learn how to do that job, you can be busy doing what?
Thinking.
Whatever you want, right? How much time are you spending training this person?
None.
None. And if you don't want to do the training, who can do the training? Anybody can do the training. Anybody can say, here's the video, go watch it.
You understand what you want.
Isn't that true?
Yeah. True.
Right? That's it, right? And nowadays, to create systems and document your systems, it's cheap. It's easy. Here's how I do this. Here's how I do that. Now, when someone comes in and they want to buy your business, Vince, and they say, well, Vince, you know, I think you've got a really nice business here. I think I'd be interested in buying it. Tell me, how do you do your marketing? And Vince, you say, oh, I got it all right here. You buy the business, I'll tell you exactly how we do all the marketing, right?
So nobody's going to buy it.
Right? Then they come and see Jeff and they say, well, Jeff, how do you do your marketing? And I say, well, which are you talking about our online marketing? Are you talking about our seminars that we do? Are you talking about our, we have all different kinds of ways we market. Here's how we do our online marketing. Here's a little manual, and there's a video right here. This is how we do it. Well, Jeff, how do you set up your seminars? Oh, seminars. Hold on. Seminars. Here's how we do our logistics. Here's a little CD. It tells you how to find the venue, how to do everything. It's all right here. It's all documented for you. Whatever you want to know.
That's cool.
No matter what part of the business it is. Well, Jeff, how do you do this? Oh, you want to know about our accounting? Okay, here we have this software program right here. Here's this program. Here's exactly how you do it. We have a couple of videos explain for you how to do it. It's not all that complicated. Everything. It's a business in a box. Right? If the person wanted to, they could buy my business today, fire everybody, bring a whole bunch of their own people in. Here's how it's done. Now, I wouldn't suggest they do that, but could they if they wanted to?
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, they bought this business, and it's spitting out $50,000 a month of passive residual income to the owner who's off in Tahiti. You buy McDonald's, is that a money machine?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a money machine. Now, the person who bought it, do you think they were even really an entrepreneur? No.
Businessman.
They were just a businessman that knew how to follow instructions, right? Before they were handed the keys to their McDonald's, they went to Hamburger U, right?
Yeah.
And they said, okay, you're buying a McDonald's franchise, you're not going to do any thinking, you're going to do everything the McDonald's way. Yes, go ahead, Jason.
Well, and the key to that is, you can learn it, but then you have to do it.
Then you have to do it. Although most people who invest in a McDonald's franchise, you think they actually do it?
They do, but there's a lot of people who invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in seminars and training on it and go home and do nothing.
Oh, there, I totally agree with you.
So that's why I say, when you learn it, it's great, but you gotta do it.
Yeah, think and grow rich. That's why I asked you, how many of you here to learn and how many of you here to grow? If you're gonna grow, growing implies something, right? Yes. Doesn't growing imply that you're going to have to stretch yourself out of your comfort zone?
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't it? Right? So it's critically important that you guys do grow. So we've talked a little bit about the law of income, and what I want to do is I want to go really quickly through some of the stuff here. One of the things he says here, in my business, right, in Har's business. Let me ask you something. Who do you think is going to make more money? The person who speaks in front of 10 people, or the person who speaks in front of 100 people, or the person who speaks in front of 10,000 people? Who's probably going to make more money?
10,000.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? And now they use this example of network marketing. Right? Here we are at the top of page 74. Is there a difference in income between someone who has 10 people in his or her downline compared to someone who has 10,000 people? Yeah, totally. So at the beginning of the book, he mentioned he owned a chain of retail fitness stores. We talked about that, right? Fitness Land?
Yes.
So from the moment I even considered going to business for myself, my intention was to have 100 successful stores and affect tens of thousands of people. Did you see his mindset? What do you think about opening up a store?
No.
No. His whole goal was he's going to create a prototype so he could open up a 99 more once he's got that prototype. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right? So his first goal was figure out how to make this home fitness store successful in one location. Once I figure that part out, then I can open up how many locations? A million and one. Okay. So what was his goal? He says, from the moment I even considered going into this business. So his mindset from the beginning wasn't to create a job for himself when he went, so he would go into the store every day for the rest of his life. His goal was to build a money machine that he could sell for millions of dollars. And guess what he did?
Sold it for millions of dollars.
More than once. He in fitness that was nothing compared to, I'm sure, how much he got for peak potential. What do you guys think? He says, my competitor, on the other hand, who started 6 months after me, had the intention of owning one successful store. In the end, she earned a decent living. I got rich, and as many of you know, I've said this before, every time I read that, I always think of my mom. My mom was just a very hard-working, honest, very bright business person, but her goal was to earn a living and take care of her family. And my dad passed away when I was a year old, and back in 1955, there weren't a lot of women running businesses, and it was just a teeny tiny little clothing store, and she was totally, and so if my mom had known the strategy, my mom could have done what Harv did, but every time he says my competitor who opened up 6 months after me, that was my mom. Right? That was her blueprint. And for a long time, that was my blueprint. Because that's what I saw. I said, I never want to get into retail. We work way too hard and don't make nearly enough money. I don't know if you guys have ever worked retail before. A lot of hours, and back then it was called sole proprietor. My mom was a sole proprietor, as mentioned. She was everything. I mean, it was just an amazing thing. So every time I read this book and I get to this thing here, and he talks about how he went into business to create wealth, and this lady his competitor went into business to earn a living. You know, that really hits home for me. Go ahead.
Well, I started in Arizona years ago. I took a spa business, retail spa business, a little swap meet location, 10 by 10, and it was all about sales. And for the first year, that's what it was all about. It was about sales, making sales. And the second year, I decided to forget sales altogether and think about training. And in the next 2 years, we opened up 13 retail locations, including one in downtown Old Town Scottsdale, Sedona, Tucson. I shifted the whole business because I stopped focusing on my sales performance and instead started considering training other people to peak their sales performance.
Sure.
And it just exploded. So it's a big difference.
And really, when you think about it, you know, we hear about things like franchises, right? But I mean, I know when I go to Desert Ridge, you guys ever been to?
Yeah.
How many of the stores in Desert Ridge do you think are part of a chain of stores, and how many of them do you think are just individual sole proprietors? PetSmart. You think PetSmart is a chain of stores, or Kohl's, you know, Target, all the restaurants? Are there any sole proprietors in any of that stuff? No. So instead of calling it a chain, it's just, you know, I mean, a franchise. It's taking one TJ Maxx and then creating a million TJ Maxxes once you have the basic business model in place, right? It's creating one PetSmart, and once that PetSmart works, it's creating a million PetSmarts, okay? Now, these businesses either grow very big, and sometimes they go bankrupt, but they're much higher likelihood because they have systems in place to be successful than the average small business entrepreneur who knows how to be really good at accounting but doesn't know the first thing about the other 99 things it takes to run a successful business. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. So, all right. So he says, how do you want to live your life? How do you want to live your life? Do you want to play in the little leagues or do you want to play in the big leagues? Really? Raise your hand if you want to play in the big leagues. If you want to play in the big leagues, you need to stretch yourself way out of your current comfort zone, don't you? Otherwise, you know, you're going to be trapped. You're going to be trapped by your conditioning to constantly be playing in the little leagues. So raise your hand if you really want to be in the big leagues. Now, you've got to play big. You need to think big. You need to explode whatever myths you have about what big is and think in a whole different dimension. Okay? He says, most people choose to play small. Raise your hand if you think that's a true statement. Most people choose to play small. They choose to play small because what is their... So it's not even a conscious choice, is it? It's an unconscious choice. Right? The great thing about coming to training like this is that you can become conscious, you can become aware, so you can make a different choice. If you're not even aware, how can you even make a different choice? You're not able to. And so I totally agree with Harv. I think it's very, very true. Most people do play small. They do. Why? It's easier. First, because of fear. They're scared to death of failure. Raise your hand if you've ever been afraid of failure. They're even more frightened of success. It's these mixed messages. You know what? When we do the process where we say, write down some of the negatives about being rich or going through the process of trying to become rich, what do you think are some of the things that come up? Fear. What else? What are some of the negatives about either being rich or having to or going through the process?
A lot of people.
A lot of work. What else?
Well, how do you deserve it?
What's that? You don't deserve it. Unworthy of it. Sure.
My favorite is I don't want to pay that much in taxes.
Yeah, I don't want to pay that much in taxes, right? So you know, one of the reasons is that you know, on the one hand we say, yeah, you know, it'd really be kind of nice to have lots of money, but boy, I'm gonna have to work way too hard. I'm gonna have to pay a ton in taxes, People are always going to be wanting handouts. True. Some people are going to think I'm a snob, or they won't like me anymore because I'm too big for them now. I grew too big for my britches. Yeah, true. And when you're sending those messages out to the universe, at the same time you're saying, yeah, I think I'd like to be rich, what do you think the universe is going to send back to you?
No. Since you're not sure, I don't know if I want to give it to you.
Yeah, right? Exactly. So your life is not just about you. Raise your hand if you believe inside of you have gifts that you want to share. That you have valuable information, knowledge, things you can do that can positively impact other people. Raise your hand if you really believe you have those gifts to share. And for you not to share those gifts, you're not just cheating yourself, you're cheating everybody that could be positively impacted by it, aren't you?
Yes.
Right? You're being selfish. Isn't that true? If you really believe you have something of value to share. In my heart and my soul, I believe I have value to share. I really believe it. I believe that if you take these principles and ideas and you apply them and you grow and you learn from it, that your lives will never be the same again, ever. Never. Because once your mind's expanded, it won't ever contract. Once you know something, you know it. True. And so you need to understand how important this is. You need to understand how important this is. You need to understand how important these wealth files are. And you need to play big, right? Otherwise, I don't know how many times we get to come back to this earthly plane. Some people say, this is it. Some people say, oh, you come back 1,000,000 times. I don't know. I guess we'll find, when the time comes, I'll find out, right? And I'm a very open-minded person. I believe that I have no idea what is out there, because, the invisible is so much more powerful than the visible. True or true?
True.
So we don't know what other planes of existence are out there. All I know is that for sure, I'm here right now in this earthly plane, and so are all of you, right? That's what we know for sure. We can believe whatever we want, but we're here. And if we're here, how many of you would really like to look back on your life when it's all said and done and be so darn proud of who you became and what you accomplished? And the lives that you changed, right? And Bucky Fuller says it right here. He says, the purpose of our lives. How many of you think it's important to have a purpose in your life? So you have a reason for getting up in the morning, right? Sure. And what's he say? The purpose of our lives is to do what? Add value. Add value to who? People of this generation and
the next.
Yeah. What a great legacy, right? And do you have gifts that you can share?
Yes.
And you need to learn how to package those gifts in an attractive way so that the people that you can best help, they're going to hear your message, your vibration, they're going to feel your vibration, and they're going to say, that message resonates with me, and through the law of attraction, what do you think is going to happen? Who are you going to attract into your life?
More of the good stuff.
If you put out a particular message, it's going to have a certain energy behind it. True or true?
Right.
True.
Okay, and it's not going to resonate with everybody, but if you've learned and practiced how to present it in a very attractive way, if you package your marketing in a very attractive way, are people going to be attracted and want to learn more about you and about your business and about your product and about whatever it is, the value? If you know you can solve their problem and you know how to tell them, sometimes people don't even know they have the problem until you bring it to their attention. And then B, once you bring it to their attention, if you can do it the right way, and you can show them what are the benefits of taking care of this, or B, the challenges if they don't get it taken care of, right? And you can rehearse and practice how to do all this stuff, so that when it comes time for the close, and maybe the close is to be able to get a phone call with them for 15 minutes to follow up. That's all. You're not trying to make a sale. You just want to make a connection with someone. And once you know what your purpose is, can you rehearse it so that you can do that many times a day? And then you can videotape yourself so you can teach it to other people how to do it, right? And they can just watch how you do it, and they can rehearse it, and then they can do it. Does that make sense? Right, so we can really play big. But Buckminster Fuller said it. He says the idea is to add value. Now, what is adding value? And you know, I don't care if we don't finish this whole wealth call today, because I think this is really important. There's a million ways to add value that actually cost you nothing, or very little. You know, the way you greet somebody on the phone, or the way that you say goodbye to them. What's that?
Your personality, your own
Absolutely.
natural talent.
Absolutely. You know, if I see someone's birthday's coming up or something, and I say, you know, I'm going to send them a $10 Starbucks gift card. Okay, it cost me $10. You know how much goodwill I created?
Huge.
Huge. When you think of your business and you say, how can I add value? How can I say something that's going to make their day a little better? How can I give them a little tidbit of advice that I know they can immediately apply in their life? What can I do to add value? Right? If that becomes your primary mindset, how can I make every person's experience with me a great one? How can I make every person's experience with my